Hi everybody, I'm Bree the Plant Lady, and today I'm at the NC Botanical Garden, and I thought I would just do a quick tour to show you how the garden's changed in the last month. And I think you're going to be really excited to see how beautiful everything is. Probably the biggest difference between now and in the winter is how shady everything is. And you know, this is like such a nice cool respite. And I thought I'd stop here and show you these gulls. These are, this is actually a witch hazel. So this is probably caused by an aphid. Sometimes these are also caused by wasps, but it's not a problem. Pretty common thing that occurs. So if you see this on your plants, you don't have to freak out. Now the sunniest garden here is the Piedmont Prairie. And this has changed dramatically since I was last here. Whole new realm of plants have taken on the show, including things like penstemon and cephalanthus. Here's ceanothus, the New Jersey tea, right here. It's just colorful and beautiful. It's just, I think it's just so remarkable how from season to season different plants take on the role of star of the show. Before I name any plants, I need to make sure that I look at a label because my native plant ID is rusty. But I think this is Silene virginica. We have a ton of native penstemons, which is my new obsession. I'm going to try and collect more penstemons for my garden. Very inspired by this space. And you might remember from my April tour, this pocket with the Eastern Indian paintbrush. And at that time, the tiarella was really in full bloom. And so you can see how, you know, a different collection of plants are starting to take over as these plants wane. I love this Marshallia. The great thing about NCBG is they have a fantastic plant sale area, which is actually why I'm here. I'm here to pick up a bunch of Lycoris radiata bulbs, but let's go see what they have available for sale today. Oh yeah, it's awesome. Look, they have serums, Eurybia, Chelone, the turtle head. This is just one of those places where these are plants that can be relatively difficult to source unless you have a native plant nursery, so it's so great to be able to come here to buy these great native plants that thrive here in the central Piedmont region of North Carolina. You know, I have different asters and eupatoriums, pycnanthemum species. I, of course, bought all their pawpaws. Here's some penstemon. So I'm going to have to get both penstemon levigatus and penstemon digitalis. I'm going to hold true to my commitment to increase my penstemon collection this year. Gaillardia is really coming into its own this time of year. You see the Baptisias that were in bloom the last time I was here are now in their seed stage. When they're ripe, these seed pods will actually turn black. And it's really remarkable how these sunny areas are so different in contrast to the shade areas, which, you know, we have a lot of shade here in North Carolina. Actually, here's some Baptisia. Is this Baptisia minor? What's this? Nope, this is Baptisia albescens, and that is still flowering. I'm so grateful that they have signage. You can learn so much. Over here, the orange that's blooming is Asclepias tuberosa. Mine is a little bit behind compared to theirs. This is such an important plant for monarch caterpillars to be able to eat. This is the perennial, often called butterfly weed. It's in the milkweed family. So NCBG just had their Carolina Moonlight virtual party on Saturday, and it was a fantastic hour-and-a-half discussion of growing carnivorous plants, and I'm really excited to see their carnivorous plants in bloom. I've tried to recreate these containers at my house, and hopefully by next year mine will look as good as theirs do. They're such dynamic and interesting things. This is Sarracenia flava, the yellow pitcher plant. And you can see the pitchers are actually their kind of digestive structure, their leaf, and insects fall into there and ultimately decompose. And then these are the blooms. And they usually are blooming now in the spring, early summer. They are really great candidates for pots with no holes. So if you don't really have a place where you could do a proper bog, just invest in a container. Well, you can definitely see that it's been dry. And here is that impatiens omiense that I showed in my last tour here. And this is a great indicator of soil moisture level. See, it's flagged. We really could use some rain. It's so nice to see that there's people in the garden. And here in North Carolina, our mask mandate is over. So you can see people's faces again. So here we are, kind of on the backside of the Piedmont Prairie. And it's such an inspiring area. It's hard to imagine that this is actually what North Carolina looked like before logging and people and invasive non-native trees have taken over our woodlands and displaced a lot of these sun-tolerant plants, these perennials, these flowering herbaceous things. I think that the Baptisias are equally interesting in seed as they are when they're in bloom. How's that for some drama? These ferns look amazing. Enormous. These ferns are like taller than me. This is a great area that captures water. This is like the habitat of what would be along the North Carolina coast. You see, you've got a lot of different herbaceous plants, including Sarracenia, that grow in these bog-like conditions. That texture and color combo, I think, is just extraordinary. I'm definitely a creature of habit. I take the same path every time I come. I can't help it. But I love this transition into what will be the mountain habitat up here, which it looks like the Kalmia or the mountain laurel are starting to bloom. The rhododendrons have not started yet. But here is some Kalmia in flower. And when you're in the mountains here in North Carolina, this is everywhere. Like, it can't be avoided. It's so awesome. So let's go see what else is going on in the mountain habitat garden. Well, I think I spoke too soon. I see rhododendrons in bloom. They're not all flowering, but there are some. In fact, there's one right over there. Let's go over and see this one up close. Where I live, it's really challenging to grow these because I, again, don't live in a mountain environment. I'm an hour southeast of Chapel Hill here. Oh, look at those blooms. Aren't they magnificent? Around this corner over here, this is a much smaller flower. I didn't see a label on that last one, but this is rhododendron minus, gorge rhododendron, and it's a significantly smaller bloom. Really beautiful, Beautiful, beautiful plant. Of course, every time I come here, I have to stop by my favorite cabin. It reminds me of my early years living here. I can't believe that was 19 years ago when I lived in one of these for 3 very happy years. So if you've never been able to hang out in a converted tobacco barn, I'd highly recommend having the chance. So coming out of the woods and into this open area, this is used for events. I'm not sure if they're allowed to have weddings yet or not, but it's a really charming area. And we're gonna come up onto their carnivorous collection, which look awesome. I saw the pictures on Instagram. I was like, you've got to get to Chapel Hill, Bree. So that's what I did today. Holy smokes, compared to the last time I was here, these beds have totally filled out. They're flowering. I mean, look at that one. That is so cool. So that is Sarracenia leucophylla tarnock. That bloom is awesome. And then, you know, when you look down in here, you can see, you know, we have sundews here, we have Venus flytraps down there. These beds are just so interesting. Polygala lutea. That's this cute little orange flower. Boy, I can dream that my newly planted bogs will look this cool one day. It's certainly great inspiration. Coming over here. This smaller one, that's Sarracenia minor, variety minor. You see how much shorter it is compared to behind it here. And these look like orchids, those little whites. I'm not sure if that's lilium. Here's Sarracenia purpurea variety venosa. That has this really large, low to the ground pitcher, and then these really interesting flowers. Again, there's just so much to take in from these beds. Here's the Venus flytrap, Dionia. There are parts of the East Coast, like the Green Swamp, where you can just see all of this, like, actually in nature.
These are really,
it's
look at these ones.
really awesome.
You can see stuff in them.
This is totally one of those experiences that captures people's attention and can really be kind of a whole new way to express an interest in horticulture. They're really important. I love this setup. These, you know, low raised beds essentially filled with the appropriate soil for growing these, because our native soil does not really support the development of these carnivorous plants. Wow, look at how beautiful these are. Sundews are definitely something that I'm fascinated by. I was really excited to get some. So this is actually a collection that are native to the Gulf Coast. And that's part of the reason that coming to this botanic garden is so great, because it's such a great source of educational information. Look at that cute little, some sort of lamium, maybe a salvia mixed in. Here's this Asclepias that's actually in bloom. That's Asclepias lanceolata, few flower milkweed. Overall, it's a place that I think most people could spend a significant amount of time in. So interesting. Well, pretty exciting to see Itea and Spigelia marilandica are starting to flower. This is like the noisy highway right up there. And I think this garden's done an amazing job of almost making you feel like you don't realize you're right in the middle of downtown Chapel Hill. More rhododendron in bloom. Rhododendron are my grandparents' favorite flowers. They always remind me of my early days visiting my grandparents in Pittsburgh. This Oenothera sure is a bright spot in the garden right now. The tradescantias are kind of finishing. And then into here, which is where my early days in Chapel Hill, I spent a lot of time in these gardens getting to know the medicinal plants and, you know, all of these different non-natives that serve a lot of important functions globally, from things like herbs like rosemary and phlomis and lamium to things like winter savory and, of course, lavender. Back there, a nice stand of hardy bay laurel, which I really do need to get some of. This Belgian fence of espaliered apples, you can see there are fruits forming. I don't quite have the patience to do this at my house, though I wish I did. I tried. I didn't try hard. I started one and then didn't follow through. So, does that count as trying? Probably not. Here we have culinary herb section. I love the industrial herb section. Just teaches you a lot about the use of all these different plants. And then up there we actually have poisonous plants, which is pretty cool. Of course, you might be spotting the plant that I have the most of right now, Papaver somniferum. I'd say that definitely qualifies as medicinal, since it is where opium comes from. At least the original source, not the synthetic. Another plant my garden is missing is bronze fennel. I need to remedy that ASAP. I don't have any of this for sale, but I can find it from somewhere. This is really favored by the swallowtail caterpillars. I used to have it, and I've noticed that I no longer have it, so another priority plant to grab. And back walking into the longleaf pine area that does get treated with fire annually. I think annually, at least every couple of years. Everything has grown a lot in here. And ooh, a whole new plant category is taking over. I need a sign because I'm not even going to try and tell you what this is. Let's see, they burned this on February 25th. So that was shortly after Jim Putnam and I were here filming for No Rules Gardening. When I was last here, the lupines were in bloom. It's right there. But I'm hoping to find a tag, I see it, to properly identify this. Tuberosa virginiana. You can see how it's in the Fabaceae family. The flowers look like peas. And I would imagine this would be a nitrogen fixer, but I'd need to look that up to confirm. Not all legumes actually fix nitrogen. It sure is pretty. Speaking of pretty, here's another big Kalmia, mountain laurel in flower. It's just so cool. I love how they have like the little dots on their blooms. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this quick tour of the North Carolina Botanical Garden here in lovely Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I'm gonna go pick up my plants and head on out because I have a busy day ahead. but it's always a treat to be able to come and visit this garden and learn from this amazing collection of native plants. So thanks for watching, everybody.